Hello, my name is Yahya Hassan, and in this video, I want to show you how, with the help of AI tools, you can reduce the amount of time you spend in discovery from weeks to hours. And by the end of this, you'll be able to create an insightful pitch document for whatever initiative that you're working on. So without further ado, let's go. So as I mentioned, our objective is to create a professional pitch document for our initiative based off of qualitative and quantitative discovery exercises and techniques. And so we will be going through several phases to show you how you can use these tools to help you think, generate questions, and so on. So the tools used in this are Claude for Sonnet, Notebook LM, Napkin, Gemini Pro 2.5, and Gamma. Claude is an LLM from Anthropic. Notebook LM is a tool from Google that allows you basically to chat with your documents. Napkin is a tool that from text will generate graphics for you. Gemini Pro is Google's LLM. And Gamma is an AI presentation maker, not only for presentations, but documents as well. So by the end of this, we will go to Gamma and produce our pitch document. Now, the first phase of this is using LLMs to help us in user research. So we start off with a problem statement that is related to people struggling with time constraints and motivations, but they want to stay fit. And then we have a target audience as well listed there. Working professionals, age 25 to 45, with household income of $75,000 or more. All right, so the first thing that we want to do is we want to get the help of Claude to generate some useful user interview questions. Now, I also want to show you how you can use Notebook LM to help you improve your prompts. And you can also, by the end of this, save prompts that you produce and add them into a prompt library as well. So the first prompt that I wrote, and I'm just going to do one example of this to show you, is generate 15 user interview questions to validate the pain points and needs of busy professionals regarding fitness tracking. Now, if we go into Notebook LM, I want to show you how I use it to generate prompts for me. I've uploaded a couple of sources here. One is Google's prompt engineering guide in a PDF format. And then the second one is a published document on Anthropic's website that gives us best practices for prompt engineering for Claude 4. The nice thing about Notebook LM is that you can choose which source that you want to chat with. In my case, I want to use both. I think there's value for any LLM to generate prompts using this method. So if we go back to Obsidian, let's take this prompt, copy it, go back to Safari. Okay, and basically we're just going to say, improve this prompt using the referenced best practices. Okay, so this is the improved prompt. Act as an experienced user researcher, specializing in understanding the daily lives and challenges of busy professionals in relation to their health and wellness. Sets a goal, which is to design a set of comprehensive interview questions. Pay attention to pain points, motivations, current habits, and unmet needs. So it's adding a lot more context. It gives also a few examples. And then what's neat is it also gives us a breakdown of the improvements based on the sources. So one of the things I noticed when I use this more and more is providing examples. In theory, based on the references, will improve the output from your prompts. And so I saved one of these, and this one's a little bit different, but also quite thorough and really zeroes in and focuses in on what to look for. Okay, so now back in Obsidian, we have our prompt that Notebook LM generated for us. And then we put that into Claude, and it gave us 15 open-ended user interview questions. For example, let's go through a few of these. Walk me through a typical workday and describe how your fitness tracking device or app fits into that routine or doesn't fit at all. Tell me about a time when you felt the most successful at maintaining your fitness tracking habits despite a demanding work schedule. What made that period different? Let's skip down. Describe how your fitness tracking needs or priorities change during particularly busy periods at work compared to more relaxed times. So we're starting to get a little bit more pointed and specific. So this is good. One caveat to this is you need to obviously read through this and use your own experience and intuition and understanding of what makes a good interview question. And you can always use other resources to compare these against to evaluate them. So don't just take what's given to you at face value. But indeed, this has saved us time. All right, and so I've put that in Obsidian as well, output here. All right, and now in the real world, what you would do is you would go out and conduct as many user interviews as you could within your time frame that you have, and obviously targeting the right people for your audience or your demographics. Now, I wanted to simulate this, so I forgot to mention that I use DeepSeek as a tool as well. So I wanted to simulate this. So back in Safari, another pro tip that I can give you. If you don't have an open router account, I suggest you get one. And what I did was, here we go, say, here's my prompt. I gave it the interview questions, and then the results that it gave me were actually quite good. In that the dialogue read more human-like. So I found that interesting. I could sense a little bit of some of the personalities coming through from the dialogue. And so reading through this first one with a fintech CEO and frequent traveler, we get a sense of his day. We have descriptions here of his behavior and body language, which is interesting. So for this question, how do you currently make sense of all the data your fitness tracker collects, and what do you actually do with that information on a day-to-day basis? Taps watch dismissively. It's noise mostly. Heart rate spikes tell me I need whiskey after brutal calls. Sleep scores, I ignore them because I know 4 hours isn't fair. The only data I can act on is step counts. I'll pace during calls if I'm under 6K by noon. Everything else, just colorful graphs I screenshot annually for my physical. So the way that this was presented was quite good. Okay, so this mimics the actual content from real user interviews. So I did this for 3 different people: fintech CEO, documentary filmmaker named Chloe, and Marcus, the ER nurse and single father. And it also gave me more information about their user personas, including demographics, pain points, and their goals. So now that we have our transcripts from the user interviews, we can move on to the second prompt, and that prompt is going to help us identify pain points and key insights. So again, I took a basic prompt and then I went into Notebook LM to improve the prompt, and I came up with this. Act as a highly experienced senior UX researcher and strategic analyst. Your task is to perform a comprehensive analysis of the provided user interview transcripts, see below, to identify, rank, and synthesize key findings related to fitness tracking among busy professionals. And then it went further to identify a goal. It identified steps. And then it provides general instructions for the response. So I put this prompt into Gemini and it analyzed the transcripts, and it gave me, which looks better in a sheet, this table listing the pain points, the severity of each, the frequency of each, and then from the transcripts, the justification or evidence. It also gave me, as I asked for, suggested market opportunities based on the highest ranked pain points. So for our product, which we are calling FitTrack Pro, opportunity number one, the context-aware autopilot system. So it integrates with the digital ecosystem, your calendar, your work tools, and so on. And basically, it would use this data to automatically adjust goals, notifications, and recommendations. And then it communicates what pain points were addressed with this second one, the stealth mode, privacy, and data firewall. So there was a mention of protecting data in a better way than some of the options available on the market. So based on that, it suggests there's an opportunity for more granular privacy. Key features would include a stealth mode, trusted sharing dashboard, and so on. Third opportunity is a specialized module dedicated to or designed to understand and quantify the physical and mental strain of non-traditional work. And again, this came from the transcripts because there's an unmet need for a vast segment of the workforce whose jobs are physically demanding but not recognized by current fitness models. And then from there it continues. So professionals seek a biometric ally, not a digital coach. The most valuable data is causal, not correlational. The definition of health transcends fitness metrics. It's about performance and survivability. And control is a paramount need manifesting in both privacy and goal setting. So I got all of that from that prompt, right? And so that's that same content here. And so the takeaways from this research that we've done so far is we've been through the user interviews, been able to construct user personas, of course, the interview questions themselves, and from the transcripts of the user interviews, we have ranked pain points that give us potential opportunities. All right, so phase two, we want to take this data and turn it into shareable, clear visuals. So the first one we're going to do is we're going to do a simple user journey map. Now, the first step here is another prompt to help us create in text form that journey map. And so again, with the help of Notebook LM to improve my initial basic prompt, I got this one, which assigns the task to meticulously analyze the provided user interview transcripts, again, and identify and comprehensively map the core user journey for busy professionals, specifically focusing on the progression from their initial fitness motivation, so that moment when they want to either start a fitness program or work out, to the workout completion point. Right. So once again, this is a very detailed prompt with very specific instructions on the response. And once again, I use Gemini here. As you can see, here's my prompt. And so it gives us this journey map detailing the user's progression from the initial impulse to exercise through the completion of the workout. And it breaks it down into 4 stages. So the initial motivation, which it calls the spark and the struggle. User decides they should engage in a fitness activity. They often feel a pang of guilt or a moment of stress or a rare window of opportunity. So the goal here is to to convert the fleeting impulse into a concrete intention to work out. So it lists the user activities as well. It might be a notification. The person might be feeling at that time that they're tired or stressed or fatigued. And so they might not want to work out. They might reflect on their long-term goals for motivation. And then take action based on that. So also part of the response is friction points, which we asked for in the prompt. And we want to know the friction points for each individual stage. If I go back to my prompt here, this is one of the key things that you want to include. Okay. So we want to understand their primary activities, mindset, and goals, which we saw in that first answer. And then identify and detail friction points. This will be really useful for us when we come to identify our feature set for our MVP and ultimately our solution. Now, to just make this easier to digest, I asked it to take that and just summarize it into clear steps with friction points identified in a simple bullet point list. So now here we go. The busy professional's workout, motivation, that's stage 1, planning, stage 2, starting the workout, stage 3, during the activity, stage 4, and then post-workout, stage 5. Okay, so again, here is all of that in our master document here. All right, so now what we want to do is create a few more visuals in Napkin. One of them, a visualization to compare and contrast our user personas. Another one to visualize our user journey and show the key friction points visually. And we will do that by creating an infographic showing pain point severity versus frequency. All right, so let's go into Napkin. You want to create an account, it's free. Now I'm in my library right now, and I've done some of these already. I've actually done all of them. Basically, how Napkin works is you can add text, either copy and paste, which I've been doing, or you can upload from a file. Let's do a new Napkin, actually. Okay, yeah. So you can start blank and copy and paste, which is what I've been doing. You can import a file from file, or you can draft it with AI. Now, with all of the text that we've been generating from Claude and from Gemini, we get everything we need from there. So for our user journey, I took this directly from the summary that we created. Now what you do to create a visual is simply highlight the text that you want the tool to consider. Then you press this blue button to generate the visuals. And it will give you options. So let's just go through it. Okay, so there we go. And give you different visuals here. I like that one. In fact, that's the one I chose. So nice visual showing the different stages and overcoming them as you work out, and how that presents opportunities for our product. Second one we mentioned is our user personas. So now this information comes from our transcripts of user interviews. So part of that was an identification based from those transcripts of the 3 different user personas we came up with through those simulated interviews. So copied and pasted that information here for each user persona. We have demographics, their pain points, their goals, preferred communication style in terms of dealing with the product. So the first one is a CEO of a multinational fintech startup, married, no children, age 44. Second one is Chloe Mendez, independent documentary filmmaker, single, no dependents, and then same things, pain points, goals, preferred communication style, and so on. You get the point. Highlight or select all of them, and it will give you some options to choose from. And it gave me this table. I would probably change the colors if I spent a little bit more time on it, but it summarizes the personas quite nicely and in a good looking graphic that I can look at and compare each one quickly against the other. And then finally, one more, we have the pain point hierarchy. Now this data comes from our spreadsheet. When I pasted this, show you, into Napkin, it doesn't turn out so well. So I wasn't sure how this would be read. I don't like looking at it. It's not readable. So what I did instead was use any LLM, copy and paste this same data into it, and ask it to turn the data into JSON structure. So this is much easier for me to read and theoretically for the LLM as well. And so after selecting and asking it to generate visuals, we got this nice matrix where we go from low frequency and low severity pain points to high severity and high frequency pain points. So for example, based on our user interviews, misinterpretation of activity is low frequency and low severity pain, but the lack of contextual awareness by the application is a high severity and high frequency pain point. So this visualizes this in a clean way. So we created from all of this data from our user interviews, these three visuals that we can later use in our pitch document. All right, so that's phase 2. Phase 3 is conducting competitive analysis with Manus and Notebook LM. Now, I primarily used Manus for these tasks, but I mentioned that you can use Notebook LM, and I'll explain how. Manus is also free up to a point, and they provide enough credits to do this task. So what I wanted to do in Manus was a feature comparison of identified competitors that are potentially competitors for FitTrack Pro, as well as market trends in positioning, understanding the macro environment, and user sentiment towards our competitors. So again, with the help of Notebook LM to improve my prompt, we have this detailed prompt asking Manus to act as a highly experienced senior PM, as well as UX strategist and competitive intelligence specialist. That's quite a lot. Your primary task is to generate a comprehensive competitive analysis report on the following popular fitness applications: MyFitnessPal, Strava, I don't know how that's pronounced, and Nike Training Club. This report should provide actionable insights into their market positioning, core feature sets, and user sentiment, with the ultimate goal of informing strategic product development, enhancing market understanding. Right, and then it continues, as we've seen before, with detailed instructions about how the sections of the report should be organized, what they should be, and how they should be organized. And then further general instructions for the response. Okay, so you can go into Manus. Okay, and so here's the prompt. It's quite large, so it shows up as pasted content. If you haven't used Manus before, Manus is an agent, and its best use, in my opinion and my experience, is for this type of research generation, because it can browse the web and then synthesize everything that it finds into a pretty useful report. And so before it gets started, it tells you what it's going to do. So it's going to read and analyze the content requirements, research and gather the comprehensive data on the 3 fitness apps, analyze the app features, user experience, and competitive positioning, create visual assets and supporting materials, write the comprehensive competitive analysis report, and deliver the final report. And so once you press enter, it will do these things and you don't have to do anything. And so it shows each action that it takes. So I read the file, start searching for MyFitnessPal's core features, target audience, and market positioning. Then it moves on to the business model and features for MyFitnessPal and so forth. Once it's done with MyFitnessPal, moves on to Strava. I think it's Strava. And then the same thing for Nike Training Club. Then it starts to compose the report by adding content to the file. Reaches a point where it's looking for user reviews and feedback. So it went to Trustpilot. Also went to Google Store Play reviews. In hindsight, I would have specified Reddit as a source. Okay, it created one visual, which was not good. And then it continued until it completed the report. I asked for it in Markdown, and it gave it to me in Markdown. And so here's the report, and it's quite thorough. So it gave me a core feature comparison across all 3 apps, distinguished unique features for each app. Then based on the sources that it visited, it gave me some user sentiment analysis, broken down by praise points and then pain points for each application. Then it went on to understand how each application positions itself in the market, their pricing strategies, and their value propositions. So MyFitnessPal is really more tailored towards nutrition. And so its feature set is related to tracking what you eat against a very comprehensive food database. Strava is positioned as a social network for athletes, particularly those engaged in outdoor activities. And they use a freemium model, lists its value props. The Nike Training is positioned as a holistic training guide. And they have a free model. They have an extensive library of premium quality videos. And it actually says that they had a freemium model, but the current strategy appears to be focused on leveraging the app as a powerful brand building and loyalty tool for the broader Nike ecosystem. So if this is correct, this is not a paid app anymore. So this diagram, like I said, is not good. So there are things that Manus does not excel at, and I think visuals are one of them. And then finally, it gives us a summary of these strategic insights. Community is a powerful moat. The freemium model, kind of a problem for some of these applications, Strava and MyFitnessPal. And then here are some actionable recommendations, right? So in Manus, you can open up your report here. You can edit it if you want before downloading it. So if there's things that you know are incorrect and you want to fix it here, you can do so. And then there's sharing capability, and then downloading it in Markdown, which I prefer because I use Obsidian to keep all of my notes. Or if you would like a PDF, you can also save it to Google Drive and so on. Okay, so that's one way to do it. And remember, I'm choosing to use free tools in this tutorial. There are paid tools that will do this type of research extremely well. One of them is using O3 on ChatGPT or deep research. Perplexity also has a deep research feature, and Gemini also has a deep research feature. All paid versions of these have some sort of deep research feature. Out of those, I believe O3 is probably the best at this particular task. However, you can see Manus is quite good as well. One thing that I mentioned before in my prompt, if I wanted specifically user sentiment analysis from Reddit, I should specify that. Now, the other thing that we can do, if we're not going to use Manus, is we can use Notebook LM. And what we can do is upload competitor websites, app store descriptions, and reviews into Notebook LM, then ask it questions, right? So use it as a way to chat with this content. So there are a number of ways you can get data from competitor websites, including simple scraping, right? And there are plugins to do that. I could probably make a separate video just for that. There are plugins, there are Python scripts that make this pretty straightforward, and so on. And this would be especially useful for getting reviews off of the different stores. Those are usually like in a list. For scraping Reddit, something like Firecrawler would be useful as well, or other script-based solutions. But ultimately, the point is to get that content into Notebook LM so that you can chat with it, and then you can conduct these different analyses. Of course, these are the basic prompts that you can also use Notebook LM to improve. So here's our feature comparison, our user sentiment analysis prompt, and our pricing and positioning prompt. So from this phase, we got output for competitive intelligence that allows us to understand the feature gaps of the products that are in the market, as well as unmet user needs from competitor reviews from the Play Store, from Reddit, from Trustpilot, or other sources that we choose to include in our research. And ultimately, that helps us inform our positioning, given what we found to be unmet, right? And so based on that, based on all of this data that we created or generated with the help of Manus, okay, we can move on to our next step, right? And that's identifying an MVP feature set. So with this prompt, we're still in Gemini, right? In fact, let's go over to Gemini now. Okay. Now here's that report. I gave it to Gemini in Markdown, and then I gave it this prompt as a highly strategic senior product manager. Task was defining the minimum viable product for a new fitness application called FitTrack Pro. And then I instructed that you have this comparative analysis report, you have the user interviews and the insights from that. And so we have qualitative data from the user interviews, qualitative data from competitive analysis and user sentiment analysis. Take all of that and identify and justify the MVP feature set for FitTrack Pro. All right, and again, I feel like a broken record now, but you can see the level of depth that we get from enhancing and improving our prompt through Notebook LM, leveraging the resources to use best practices for prompting. All right, so we put that through Gemini and we get our feature set. Now this MVP feature set is not final. This is the starting point. This will be included in the pitch document, and that pitch document will be shared with stakeholders in an open forum and a pitch review. And from there, discussion will happen and assumptions can be tested. Agreements can be made on the smallest ways to further test this feature set, or to potentially reduce it, or potentially replace something. And so that's the point of this exercise. What you get from these tools is assistance, but it cannot replace you. It is not going to do the thinking and the experiments and the testing and the validation for you. Even if you ask it to, that is not the way you should be using these tools. Okay, so now let's move on to phase 4, and we are going to be doing market sizing using Manus, and then going back to Napkin to create some visuals from the output of Manus. All right. So we have a prompt here, and this prompt is going to focus on 3 main things. It's going to calculate or size for us TAM, which is the total addressable market. That represents the total market demand for a product or service if 100% market share were achieved. And so for our exercise here for FitTrack Pro, this is the total number of individuals in the US who are interested in fitness and could potentially use a fitness app. All right. Then SAM, which is the serviceable addressable market, represents the portion of the TAM that can be reached with FitTrack Pro's current business model and target audience. So this considers factors like geographic reach. So this will be US only focused and initially on iOS. And then finally, SOM, however you want to call it, serviceable obtainable market, represents the portion of the SAM that FitTrack Pro can realistically capture within its first 3 years of operation, considering its competitive landscape, go-to-market strategy, and marketing efforts. Okay, and the second point that this prompt will help us with is calculating revenue projections. There will be some assumptions that will have to be made, but the output will be a detailed revenue projection for 3 scenarios and an analysis of market trends. So let's just quickly look at our prompt. I won't go through all of it because it's very long, but the first 2 parts are worth looking at. So act as a highly strategic business analyst specializing in the fitness technology sector, and a senior product manager for a new fitness application called FitTrack Pro. I always find it interesting how the prompt splits up those roles. I didn't change it, I left it as is. Your overarching task is to compile a comprehensive market viability and financial projection report that will serve as a foundational document for strategic decision making regarding FitTrack Pro's launch and initial growth. Okay, so that's the context. Then the instructions generate a detailed report structured into the following 3 distinct and logically flowing sections. And then it lays out the sections. So current market trends analysis and strategic fit, what's expected in that section, as well as justification. So that is included for each section. The market sizing, as we mentioned, and then the revenue projections. Then at the bottom, there is an expectation for the quality and the formatting that's set out. And then I ended up including the feature set as well for additional context. So we put this prompt into Manus in a new task, right? And like the previous task, Manus tells you what it's going to do. First, analyzes the requirements and do the research, analyze the competitive landscape and market positioning, do the market sizing and financial projections, calculations, then create the report. All right. And so I didn't interrupt it. I let it do its thing, does its research. As we've seen, it starts to add content to the file. All right. You can even see, like I said, in the other report, you can see the sources that it used It used Zapier's blog, which is an interesting choice. So it's really useful to see what exactly is behind the output, right? And then it produced the file. There it is, split up into the sections that we asked for. Okay, so this first part is current market trends, analysis, and strategic fit. Rise of personalized wellness and data-driven fitness. So this is a trend, how that impacts what we're trying to do. Integration with wearable technology. Growth of digital first health solutions and remote fitness, how that trend has increased since COVID. How the subscription economy for fitness and technology has evolved. And something that I found, I think, the most interesting was this insight here about an increasing focus on mental well-being through fitness. We're used to seeing any fitness products being mostly tied to your physical fitness, and so there are lots of indicators for heart rate, blood pressure, sleep, sleep quality, and so on. Quantifying mental health is something, at least to me, relatively new. So that's the first section. The competitive landscape and marketing positioning. It looked at some competitors. So Strava again appears. I have Apple Fitness. I could have asked it to look at specific competitors, and in hindsight, I think if you already know who your closest competitors are, or potentially those that are the most relevant, you can specify and tell Manus, please research these. I left it open, and so it brought some new ones that we didn't have in our previous analyses. So heavy, run keeper, and then the positioning and unique value prop and differentiation between FitTrack Pro and these products. Then section 3, which is the market sizing. The initial market sizing for this, in my opinion, was too conservative. So I actually amended it because it really did shrink the addressable markets down considerably to where launching a fitness app didn't even make sense. And those are things that you have to be aware of. But it starts off with decent assumptions. One of the things that I didn't mention in the prompt is I asked it to do it 2 ways. So I asked it to estimate our size top down as well as bottom up. And so you can see here, we can just look at the TAM real quick. So total US population, smartphone users, 91% of population. Clearly, we don't want those that are outside of our demographic, so that's still quite a bit. Fitness app users definitely then whittles that down a little bit further, although it doesn't totally focus on the initial demographic that we said. This is still not bad for an initial assumption. In the bottom-up approach, number of smartphone users in the US, then multiply that by the percentage or adoption rate among US smartphone users who use a fitness app. So you get a pretty similar number. This is probably a little bit big, and there's probably further tweaking that I could have done here in terms of specifying the demographics. And so that's just something that you should be aware of. But for this proof of concept and this example, for a fitness app, it is a relatively large, or not relatively, it is quite a large TAM. Okay? And so based off of that TAM, then it will go ahead and continue on both top down and bottom up to calculate the SAM and the serviceable obtainable market as well. And because we asked to provide justification, it had to tell us why it made some of the assumptions. And so that helps you think through this as you decide if it's useful or what you need to change. All right, and then the final section, or second to last, I believe, is section 4, which is the revenue projections. And so I asked it to do 3 distinct revenue scenarios: conservative, realistic, and optimistic. And for each of these, we have a conversion rate, a monthly churn rate, we have our subscription-based model, and a price, $9.99 per month for the premium tier. That gives us also an ARPU. We have a customer acquisition cost. The initial cost that Manus put out was quite high, at least based on other research that I did myself. And so I revised that down. And that made a big difference because the cost of acquisition was so high that it didn't even make sense to launch this business. It would continually be in the red. And these numbers, based on some other research, matched up for the averages of a fitness app. So make sure to check, continue your research, right? Again, this gives a big jumping off point or a nice launch point, but you have to take the extra steps. All right. And so it continues on with user acquisition assumptions. And then based on that, we can go back here. Okay. Yeah, this is easier to look at. So we get 3 different scenarios showing our acquired users, all of the data that we looked at before. The key line you can look at is the total projected revenue based on these assumptions. So that's a conservative scenario, a realistic scenario, and an optimistic scenario. Okay. There's an explanation of differences between the scenarios. So it's, again, this is showing not only what Manus can do, but also what you can get Manus to do with the correct prompt. Cool. So we have a lot to work with from that report. You can see now we really have a lot of content, a lot of research that has been written for us that we can then leverage into a final report. But from this, what we can do is we can create some more visuals in Napkin. So let's take a quick look again into Napkin. Now there are other charting tools that might be better than this. Rather than infographics, you can use Julius AI, which does pretty good charts from tabular data. So we have here, let's take a look at our market sizing, right? So I took the section for market sizing, put it into Napkin. It's quite a lot of text. And I was able to find a decent infographic that resembles a bar chart. And it shows us going from our total addressable market to our SAM and then to our SOM for the first 3 years. Like I said, if you want like a better charting, there are tools out there as well. But this is pretty good for an infographic. And if I spent more time also in Napkin, there might have been some other visuals that would work with this as well. And for the revenue projection, I took the tables for each scenario, pasted it in here, and it can do tables. And I didn't do anything colorful or fancy on this one, given it's just a basic table. But you can change the way it looks. And that is pretty straightforward to do. If you go here, you can change, yeah, see here, we're changing the color of the border. So that actually looks pretty decent. And there are multiple things. You can change the color of the text. If you want to change the design itself, you can do that as well. We have reached phase 5, which is to finally put together a document from all of this output. We need to summarize it so we can put it in a pitch document and share it with stakeholders. And so for this, we're using Gemini again. The reason why I've used Gemini a lot for these tasks is because Gemini has the largest, at least in terms of compared to ChatGPT and Claude, the largest context window. It can take a lot of pasted content and put it into its context window and keep it in there to reference back. And you can continue to add to it. I don't think I ran out of context, even with the two separate reports plus the user personas plus the interviews, transcripts. I did all of that in one chat with Gemini Pro 2.5, which is free up to a point. You will, if you're not paying for it, you will run out of requests. But I think it took me 15 requests. I could be wrong there, but I used quite a bit before it asked me to come back the next day. All right, so here's the structure that we are going to use for our presentation: an executive summary, market opportunity, a section detailing our user research, a section talking about the competitive landscape. Then we'll start to get into our concept in terms of features and differentiation, the financial projections off of this, and then what are the next steps. And so I took this, turned it into a prompt, again, using Notebook LM. And the output we got is here, just the raw output. Right now, this is good, right? It's clean. It's split it up as we wanted it to. Has all of the sections: executive summary, market opportunity, user research, the competitive landscape, and so forth. But we want to make this pop. We want it to look better. Even if this were in a Google Doc, be boring. So how can we do that? That's where Gamma comes in. Gamma is an AI presentation maker. Can use it for presentations, documents. It'll make visuals for social media. It's pretty cool. And so the final output, which I'll show you how this works, is this. Basically a nice cover page. There's our executive summary, the market opportunity with the visual that we made in Napkin, the user research section, and we have our user persona comparison, and then our pain points prioritization matrix that we also made in Napkin, competitive landscape, our product concept. Here are our financial projections in a minimal, clean, tabular format, plus next steps. So as you can see, this looks a lot better than a pretty plain Google Doc, and it's aided by the visuals that we did in Napkin. And if we spent more time on this, we could really make it pop with even more visuals and so forth. But I just wanted to show you what you can output, right? So with Gamma, yeah, now we're in editing mode. You can see the slides here on the side. You can do many things. So I want to go home to the home page, right? And what you want to do is create new, all right? And then it's going to give you three options: paste in text. So if you have unstructured notes or an outline or existing content, you can copy paste it right here. If you have a one-line prompt, you can even generate a document or presentation here. I had my file, which I showed you from Obsidian, so I imported that. So let's just do a quick experiment. And there's some example prompts here on the bottom. I like this one, a usability testing plan. And let's do a presentation. Here we can choose the number of cards, the page style. All right, and we even have Arabic as a language. Let's try that. So we'll do a usability testing plan. All right, now the first thing it's going to do is generate an outline. Okay, so we've got our outline. let's generate that. I did not evaluate the quality of it yet. Okay, so it's adding visuals on its own that should match the text. All right. Now, you guys are going to be better judges than me if this actually worked decently well in Arabic. But what you can do now is there are ways to edit individual slides. You can ask it to, number one, change the writing. Okay. And then we can replace images if we don't like it. So let's say, okay, let's replace this image. Okay. Okay, so let's look at this image here. And if we want to edit this image, there are a number of ways that we can do so. Now, this is an AI image, and this is the prompt, a person looking at a screen with data metrics. So you can create images with AI. If you have your own, you can upload those. You can choose from a web image search. You can use images from Unsplash, GIFs from Giphy, and so on. You can use icons. So that's one of the, I think, the most powerful aspects of Gamma is the number of options it gives you to be able to choose different sources for your images, including creating ones with AI. Okay, so if we were happy with that, we could keep it. There are other things that we can do. We could change the layouts. There are templates that we can use. We can add videos, charts, and diagrams. This would probably need another video by itself. I'll go over one more thing, and this is the theme of the overall presentation. And you can import a theme. You can make a theme. But usually the ones here are pretty good. And so if we wanted something maybe a little darker, you can choose this one, incandescent. That really changes the vibe a bit. If we wanted something more minimal, you can choose that, and so on. So basically everything that you can do in PowerPoint in terms of getting the look and feel that you want, you can do in this as well, but much, much faster until you are able to get the document that you want. And from here, we can export this into different formats. And so I want it as a PDF. So we can do that. And we are good to go. Okay, so we've reached the end here with our professional grade document that has insights from qualitative research, has market sizing and revenue projections. We have an MVP feature set. We, through the aid of these tools, have saved a lot of time in our product discovery. And we should have enough insights from this process to consider what to do next whenever we share our pitch document with our key stakeholders and take the next steps. So for you, if you want to try this for yourself with all of these different tools, choose a product idea that interests you. If you can't think of anything, ask AI to help you generate ideas. Use the prompting techniques that I showed you. And one thing that you can do with those there is anytime you have a prompt generated, take that and add them to another notebook. So you start creating a prompt library, right? Sign up for all of these if you have not already, and do this on your own and see how it turns out. It could be for something that you're working on, or it could be for a personal project. Either way, you're going to learn a lot by actually going through the same steps that I did in this video. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you found it useful, please share with your network. Thanks again.